Hi everyone, Rick Russell here. Stand by for channel markers. It's the most famous small boat engagement in U.S. naval history. We're open to suggestions, but the ramming of PT-109 by Japanese destroyer Amagiri in the early hours of August 2nd, 1943 is at the top of our list. By itself, the encounter was one-sided and unique, but national publicity about how the boat's crew survived its ordeal had turned their young skipper, John F. Kennedy, into a hero. As we know now, not everything about young JFK or the loss of PT-109 was as the media portrayed the event then, or especially as it was portrayed later, during Kennedy's rise in politics. The Hollywood and published accounts of Kennedy's naval career that appeared while JFK was alive were more journalism than history. Only after President Kennedy's tragic death was every aspect about his life and death subjected to a level of historical cross-examination that would make most of us, if likewise placed under history's microscope, wince in pain. Today, as a follow-up to Jack's brick build video about PT-109, we recall a few of the controversies about Lieutenant Junior Grade Jack Kennedy. What are the controversies? Many now seem nitpicking, and most are overlapping. For our purposes, they are 1. JFK's reliance on his father's influence, 2. His poor health, and 3. His performance as a naval officer under stress. Kennedy's father, Joseph P. Kennedy, wielded considerable influence in Washington. In September 1941, his father obtained both a direct commission as ensign and a desk job in the Office of Naval Intelligence for his second son. He was ideally suited for the position, but in the frantic aftermath of Pearl Harbor in January 1942, JFK was hustled out of O&I and banished to a non-sensitive job in South Carolina. So what happened? The answer is the young intelligence officer had incidentally come under surveillance by the FBI because he was vigorously dating a woman J. Edgar Hoover and the Bureau suspected was a Nazi spy. For the good of all concerned, Jack was dispatched to the perceived purgatory of Charleston to cool off. He also spent time in 2 different naval hospitals. His dad eventually intervened with Undersecretary of the Navy James Forrestal to have him assigned to sea duty, which in turn required Kennedy to become a line officer. So in July 1942, he started officer candidate school at Northwestern University. He did well. He even volunteered and was accepted for duty in PT boats. You didn't need a physical for PT duty. He was also advanced in rank to lieutenant junior grade. Next, he excelled at the PT training base at Melville, Rhode Island.
Where? Melville, sir.
But after graduation, the authorities retained him on staff to train new skippers. Again, more strings were pulled, and in March 1943, young Kennedy was en route to the fighting in the Solomon Islands.
You put in a fix to go the wrong way?
Right.
Mr. Kennedy, they're fighting out here.
Yeah, what is it?
Lieutenant Kennedy, reporting for duty, sir.
When Kennedy arrived at Tulagi at nearly age 26, he was older and more senior in the service than many of the combat veterans around him, but still a green newbie. Not everyone got a boat, but after a few days on board PT-47, Kennedy was deemed competent and qualified by the powers that be, so he was given command of the 109.
Yeah, is it one of ours?
Yep, officially listed. 109.
After many months of hard use, PT-109 needed a good bit of upkeep and a new crew. A holdover from the old crew, Ensign Leonard Tom, became Kennedy's XO. By June, Kennedy and Tom had the boat and her new crew operating in top form. As the PTs and the 109 pushed ever forward in support of the New Georgia campaign, Kennedy had a serious brush with a Japanese float plane that wounded 2 of his crew. As the front moved, so did the PTs, which advanced from Tulagi to the Russell Islands to Rendova and finally to Lambari in mid-July 1943. The cruiser and destroyer men often accused the PT boats of getting in their way, but the boats, including the 109, kept a steady schedule of patrols. On 1 August 1943, JFK and Tom learned the Tokyo Express would make a major run in their direction. That same day, 18 Japanese aircraft raided their base, destroying 2 boats and suggesting intelligence was spot on. Kennedy had spent the day looking for a carpenter to install a 37mm anti-tank gun on the foredeck. The briefing and air raid had interrupted the effort, so the crew lashed the gun to the deck temporarily. To make room, the boat's life raft was put ashore without a second thought. As JFK was preparing to shove off that night, Barney Ross, an officer friend of a friend, asked to tag along. Kennedy agreed. The PTs numbered 15 boats in total, 11 for strike, 4 in reserve. It was the greatest lineup of PT firepower in the war to date. PT-109 was assigned to the lead 4-boat division led by Hank Branningham. It was meant to make contact first with the Express if it got past Arleigh Burke's destroyers. Unfortunately, as described in the book At Close Quarters, the action in Blackett Strait was, quote, perhaps the most confused and least effective executed action the PTs had been in, unquote. They fired 32 out of 60 torpedoes, hit nothing, and lost the 109. No other PT boat skipper's combat actions have been scrutinized as much as Jack Kennedy's in PT-109, and I will list the best sources in the description below. We can leave questions about the rescue for another day, but for the night of 1 to 2 August, the questions boil down to these. First, why didn't Kennedy, and the 4th boat for that matter, follow the division leader, whose boat had radar, when he spotted and attacked the Tokyo Express, which was the plan all along? And second, how could a nimble PT boat be run down by a destroyer? PT-109 made 2 separate contacts with the Tokyo Express, about 2 hours and 15 minutes apart. In the first, when the enemy was southbound and Branningham and his unofficial wingman, Libano, attacked, Kennedy and the 4th boat, Lowry's, did not. Branningham later said Kennedy was on loan to him for only that night, so he never asked him why he didn't follow. He believed Kennedy and Lowry were less than 2,000 yards away when the shooting started. Official and journalistic accounts vary, but the PT-109 is often portrayed farther and more isolated from the action than is correct. Though all hell had broken loose, with communications broken and confusing, some of the conclusions are not flattering to the future president. Barney Ross thought that they needed more training because they had mistaken destroyer searchlights for much closer shore-based searchlights. Their withdrawal was a mistake, he said. Tell us what you think in the comments below. In PT-109's second contact with the Express, after the destroyers had unloaded and were exiting northward through Blackett Strait at high speed, Amagiri plowed through PT-109, igniting a fireball. The experience on board was horrific. 2 men died, and several were badly injured. Critics, including Kennedy's squadron commander, blamed Kennedy's decision to run with his engines muffled. They made too much noise, but the danger was needing to put on full throttle with them muffled. They were prone to cough from exhaust backup and conk out. Others, including Libano, thought the ever-present fear of float planes was still on his mind. So Kennedy was running with only 1 engine engaged to reduce his telltale wake. On this point, we can give Kennedy the last word. From the Flotilla 1 newsletter, Mosquito Bites, dated September 15, 1943, but not declassified until 1963, the writer said, quote, Jack Kennedy believes that the reason he was unable to get out of the way of the destroyer which rammed him was because only one of his engines was in gear. He strongly advises that whenever enemy destroyers are known to be in a patrol area, all engines should be in gear, unquote. The Navy forgave Jack Kennedy for losing PT-109. He was given another boat. In 1943, Kennedy was neither a hero nor anti-hero. But the coconut on which he carved the rescue message was about to become an icon. Thanks to national coverage of the crew's survival, which his father had arranged, Jack Kennedy soon became a war hero. That's all for this channel marker. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment or recommend another subject below. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.